I think if you were going to do anything and have any kind of little small thing that you would change in a routine, that would be my recommendation to try is like have some kind of positive start to the day with, maybe a little exercise, but trying to get your mind right with some positive affirmations and, journaling, things like that. Because I think that, having coming from a place of like gratitude, it's really going to change the trajectory of your day, which turns into a good day, good weeks, good months, it kind of goes from there.
Welcome to Momentum in Real Estate, your guide to success in the dynamic world of real estate. I'm Cory Wolf.
And I'm Kristin James. Whether you're just starting out or a seasoned pro, we're here to help you reach new heights.
Success in real estate comes from learning, growing, and serving others.
Join us as we dive into strategies for lead generation, marketing, market trends, and client relationships.
Get ready to ignite your momentum and achieve your goals in real estate.
Let's dive in and unlock your full potential.
This is Momentum in Real Estate.
Today's guest is Brittany Ranew, licensed realtor and relocation expert who helps people move into the Tampa Bay, Florida lifestyle with ease. Known for her concierge level service and deep community connections, Brittany specializes in matching the right home with the right buyer while making every move feel smooth and stress-free. As a St. Pete transplant herself, Brittany understands relocation firsthand and loves welcoming others into the community she calls home. She's also the host of the St. Pete Soul podcast, a community advocate and creative entrepreneur who recently released her debut fantasy novel. Outside of real estate, Brittany and her husband enjoy cheering on the Tampa Bay Rays, playing tennis, kayaking, and having fun in the sun with their two energetic golden retrievers, Piper and Parker. Welcome to the podcast, Brittany.
Thank you. Man, that was such a nice intro. I feel very special.
Well, it's all true, right?
It is all true. All true.
We are book lovers as well, so we're gonna have to have like a side conversation about that. But we cannot wait to get to know you more, Brittany, and tell our listeners a little bit more about you. So share with us your real estate story in your own words.
Yeah. So I'm originally from Mobile, Alabama. So that is actually where I got started in real estate. I've always been interested in entrepreneurship, and I think I went to school for music and I wanted to be a professional singer. So I think part of that kind of stems from that. And I was always into writing. So just kind of had those things in me all along. And so I think when I got the opportunity to branch out on my own after college, it was kind of this natural path of like, okay, if I'm a real estate agent, I really can make it the business that I want it to be. And a catalyst was getting laid off from my job. I was working at a music company, and it was great. It was awesome. But they just ended up, closing their doors, kind of merging with another company. So, catalyst of life changes, as it often happens. Getting laid off had me rethinking things. I had already started an event planning business on the side, again, just kind of like bolstering the entrepreneurial spirit. And that's when I really was like, okay, I think I can do this. I love people. I love serving people. I love houses. So let's get into real estate. And that was in 2013. So it's been a while. And we moved to St. Pete in 2015. So it kind of like had to start all over again when we moved here.
Yeah, I would actually love to dive into that a little bit. Like moving to a new market where
Yeah.
you're still a relatively kind of green agent. You had a
Mhm.
couple years under your belt.
Yep.
Tell us about that experience. Like how did you get things going in a new place with presuming limited relationships?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, thankfully, I do feel like I had like a crash course in real estate because I was under some mentors in at the brokers I was out in Mobile. So I feel like I had already learned a lot. And I when I moved to St. Pete, I was like, I know that I can't just like dive into this without having some kind of community like foundation because it had already been drilled into my head like about, building community and how important networking is and all that kind of stuff. So I actually decided to So the company I'm at, Premier Sotheby's International Realty, I became the office administrator in our office in St. Pete. So it was kind of a cool way for me to lay a foundation of understanding the Tampa Bay market, understanding Florida real estate, which is just different than, every state's different, and also building that community. So it in the spring of 17 is when I got back into sales, and at that point I was like missing it terribly. So I'm so happy to get back into it. But yeah, it takes being vulnerable and putting yourself out there to have to meet new people and start from scratch. And doing that as an adult is way harder than you think it's going to be.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I know. Even I'm born and raised in Asheville, and like coming back to a place that, after college, I was like, how do I find new people?
Yeah.
It's a hard thing as an adult. Anyways, I wanted to dig in a little bit into getting laid off and then that drive to become a real estate agent. Both Kristin and
Mhm.
I actually got laid off from our jobs too in 2020. And then that like was the catalyst. And we're like,
Mhm.
so it's kind of, we all have that in common. So
Yeah.
kind of help us with like, if someone's in that situation or they're trying to leave their job to become a full-time real estate agent, like what drove you and kept you going when you're commission based and all of that good stuff?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it is a challenging part of transitioning to something like real estate where it is commission based. You're used to having that like steady income from a corporate job, and then you're taking that leap, and all thankfully, my husband has been incredibly supportive this whole time through all of my endeavors, including, launching the book. So I'm very grateful to have like someone like him to have as a support system. But I think what helped me also was I did join a team when I started in real estate, and that was more in the sense of I was their transaction coordinator. So it helped me get a little bit of some money coming in. It helped me learn faster because I was like under their tutelage as well. And it wasn't the structure of a team where I was getting a bunch of leads. It was more me on the administrative side, which was great. I learned so much. And I had a side gig also just to kind of, I love to play tennis. So I was working at a tennis pro shop. So, it's just kind of those little things that you got to do until you feel like you got on your feet. Which was also the other reason why when we moved to St. Pete, I decided to take some space, make sure I felt like I was on my feet financially, also in the community before I got back into sales. So I think there's nothing wrong with doing that side hustle thing and making sure you feel comfortable.
Yeah, totally. Well, we have a lot in common actually. I'm also a tennis player, and so that's
Nice.
been a fun way to engage in the community, and I've built so many relationships and
Yeah,
been good for my business, and
definitely.
so I love that. And just to clarify, I wasn't actually laid off from my job back in 2020, but I did have kind of a unique like
Hmm.
departure from
Yeah.
where I had been working. So it was a little, a little nuanced, and can definitely relate to that experience. But I would love to talk through like how, I guess first, before I make assumptions, like tell us about your business. Like, are you primarily sphere based? Like, is that where the bulk of your business comes from? And if so, like, how have you turned your sphere into like an engine, that
Yeah.
like fuels your business?
Yeah, I definitely am sphere based with my business. Everything's coming in via referrals. And also, I do a lot of agent referrals also. That's part of like why I love being a part of Sotheby's International Realty is just like our strong network of agents. So, yeah, I think that was being focused on sphere instead of like chasing online leads. That was something that was drilled into me when I first got into real estate. And then in 2019, I ended up doing the ninja selling, program. And that also was like a good baseline of like, okay, yeah, this is the way I want to do it. I don't want to run around trying to chase leads or meeting strangers at homes, which I think is hard as a woman. Like you don't want to be doing that. And I also think it's like a good way not to get burnt out, if you're just kind of, and it's more fun, you're building a sense of community and, getting to engage with people that you like. That makes doing business way more fun.
So good. I love that. How do you network with the other agents? Is there like a database or something that you guys do through Premier, or how's that work getting referral?
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely some online type stuff that we do, but we have a lot of like in-person events that you can go to every year. So I think that's awesome. And I've done some stuff with the Tom Ferry organization in the past. So that stuff, I think anything like that, I think sometimes agents go, well, why would I want to go to this thing and like network? Like, that those types of questions come up because it's not like you're meeting with potential clients. But like you never know where business might come from or the things that you might learn. So I'm a big believer in going to like in-person realtor networking events, whether that's in your area or traveling and then being able to make those like referral partners within different states. So yeah, I think, kind of combining learning some stuff and making good relationships and connections.
Yeah, I love that. I think Cory and I both really resonate with that in terms of just how we kind of think about business relationships, networking. It's just like another pillar in your business. So I love that. Tell us a bit about your marketing, and how you have kind of use your marketing to appeal to new buyers, repeat clients, and then talk from the angle of like if you're talking to a newer agent who is completely overwhelmed with the concept of marketing and feels like,
Hmm.
well, I have to have a $10,000 budget to, to do good marketing, to have a social
Yeah.
media presence and to have to have campaigns. And so just talk a bit about how you view marketing now as an experienced agent, but even thinking back to when you got started.
Yeah, I think it's pretty simple because I think this does apply to whether you're a veteran or a new agent. It's like just thinking about how you can provide value to the people that you're trying to market to, have a relationship with, like kind of coming it from that lens of like it's a relationship first instead of thinking of it transactionally. So I think if you just think about how can I provide value, that's going to take a lot of the fear out of the marketing of like appearing salesy or anything like that. And the approach that I decided to take was to be very much community and like local focused. And I think that can help a lot of agents, and especially if you are newer, because it does give you like something to plug into. So, like finding different local organizations that you connect with, that you feel aligned with, it's gonna help you meet more people, but it can be used for content purposes. Maybe you can show other people what you're involved with. It helps people understand what you care about, if there's some nonprofits, stuff like that. But then from like the marketing aspect, what I try to do is, again, going back to providing value, showcasing the different things about our community that people would want to do, like events, highlighting all the different amenities and lifestyle that you can achieve by living in the Tampa Bay area. Because, like, people that already live here can utilize that kind of information. So it's providing value to them. But also, if you are trying to relocate to the area, then you can see what it's all about. So it definitely kind of goes like hand in hand. So, I I try to do a mixture when I am doing marketing of like maybe providing some real estate stats or other kind of real estate based information, but I'm definitely doing a lot of local community focused content. That's like my primary driver for sure.
So good. So with that, I kind of want to switch to systems. Like, what systems do you use and utilize the most that keep you aligned throughout the year?
Well, I I do have a transaction coordinator, so she
Mm.
keeps me completely sane. So I would highly recommend that for really any agent, even if you're like newer and you're not doing a ton of business, like they're just, yeah, you need help. It's hard to do this kind of stuff on your own. So getting into like a good rhythm with someone like that is awesome. And then I think otherwise, like from a process system standpoint, having, and this is something I learned from ninja selling, having a really like solid morning routine kind of helps you get started for the day in the right mindset. I do like gratitudes and affirmations, and like spend time praying and journaling, all that kind of stuff in the morning. So it really helps me like set the tone for the day. And then I'm going to also, from like a system standpoint, I have a great CRM that I use, and everything goes in there, like all of my current transactions, listings, or contracts, and then also like people that are, in my pipeline, task management. So I'm like, that way I don't forget, I need to do these types of things. So I think part of the challenge with running a business where it's all on your own, it is up to you. You need to have some routines and systems in place. Otherwise, you're just gonna like sit at your desk to be like, okay, what do I do now? And that's what we that's like the freedom of running your business is awesome until you like hang, kind of just end up not knowing what to do with yourself. So
So true. And those mental habits and I mean are just so powerful because we just so often just get in our own way, especially as solo agents, who have like aggressive goals and also want to like have a life
yeah.
and have other things that take our time and attention and that we're passionate about. So that's,
Mm.
yeah, that's amazing. Tell us a little bit about your goals for this year, like whether that's, transaction volume, sales volume, like what kind of business do you do in your market?
Yeah, my business has switched in recent years to like kind of be more listing predominant, which I think is also kind of a natural evolution as you get more seasoned, in
Mhm.
real estate. So yeah, and I love the marketing aspect of listings, so that part I really enjoy. And but I still work with a lot of buyers, and I enjoy kind of helping them through that process. So I think, for me, I'm very fortunate to have built a solid foundation of a business, and it can kind of hold steady and just keep going. So that's kind of my goal, is to kind of keep that steady growth happening, and kind of more from like a sustainability standpoint versus like, because you said this, like having a life, like, having some balance there, like that's really important to me. So and I've learned more about that in recent years, of just like having goals are great, but like enjoying the process in the middle of it all is more important than that like end result.
Oh, that's so beautiful. Yeah, we need that in quotes on a t-shirt or put on our walls somewhere. That's beautiful. I
Yes,
love
yes.
that. I wanted to ask you a little bit about what advice you'd give to, I want to say new agents, but at the same time, I think even veteran agents deal with we call them shiny squirrels. Ooh, I'll do
Yeah.
open houses to get more leads, or I'll do this for more leads, all
Yeah.
the thousands of things we can do. I'll do social media. What are the things that keep you in the direction of your goals and what you want in your life to help you like stay away from the shiny squirrels?
Yeah. Oh gosh, that is definitely challenging. I think being very clear about what your priorities are, and kind of getting into that disciplined habit of like on a weekly basis planning out your weeks, your months. You can kind of look at it from like planning out quarters is another good way to do it. Just getting really clear on the different priorities that you have, so that you do have a plan, and you're not just like, yeah, I think that's what can happen, is that shiny object syndrome really comes into play when you don't have a clear idea of what you need to be doing. And I still struggle with this because real estate can be very cyclical. So sometimes we'll have like a stretch where things are like insane busy, and then you have another month where things are kind of chill. And when I get into the chill period, I'm like, oh wait, what am I doing with myself? So I think having that like business plan to fall back on. So when I get to that slower season, I could then revisit that plan. Okay, these were my priorities for the whole year. I had this broken out by quarter, like, all that kind of stuff that you can review. And then it'll help you shift to be like, okay, now I can go back to reviewing my marketing strategy, because I haven't had time to even look at that for the last couple months. So, yeah, I think time blocking and just being very disciplined around what you're committed to doing is really, really important. And I think that will kind of drive a lot of your, a lot of your decisions.
Yeah, that's so good. I mean, so often we're volleying between those seasons of like working in your business and then seasons of working on your business,
Yeah.
and being disciplined about when you do which one, you know? And sometimes
Yeah.
it's pretty intuitive because it's like, well, I'm submitting 3 offers this week, and so I'm clearly
Yeah.
like in my business, like there's just a lot of activity, but typically winter is a little slower, and so probably next month I'll have some time to like revisit my systems and
Yeah.
look at my
Hmm.
marketing, and just keep. But I love that, like having kind of this umbrella focus of like, what are your goals, what are your kind of higher level goals, to give you
Yeah.
something to keep moving towards as the seasonal nature of the work kind of allows.
Yeah. And I think breaking it down to the top 3 to 5 priorities, because again, when you have a moment to like slow down and think or pivot, then you really have something very easily to go back to and say, okay, this is my number one priority, then this is my number two priority, this is my number three priority. So I know if I've got like a 4 hour block of time on a Friday afternoon, I'm gonna do number one first, So I think that's helped me think through that kind of stuff. And yeah, it's a hard, I think it's a challenging habit to get in the groove of with time prioritization and like thinking about it that way, kind of like a hierarchy of prioritization. Because I used to have that mentality of like, well, I'm a creative, I'm a free spirit. I don't want to time block or plan or any of this kind of stuff. And it's like, okay, well, what I learned was if you do take some time and energy to do some planning, doesn't have to be incredibly rigid, but some things, um, it does actually end up giving you more freedom. So,
It really does. It's like even financial budgets too. It's the same thing. It just gives you the freedom to like we can feel like it's so constrictive, but it really gives you the freedom to spend X amount of money or X amount of time in
yeah,
this category. Yeah. No, it's a really beautiful thing. I struggle with that still, but it really
yeah.
can set you free.
Yeah, and I mean, I've been working with a business coach since 2019, and that's been like a huge growth accelerator because it has helped me like work through the stuff that we're talking about. And I mean, yeah, if you're saying like what's some good advice for whether it's a newer agent or a veteran, I mean, that's definitely an advice, piece of advice I would give would be to work with a coach. And I know sometimes people don't want to have the financial commitment of having a coach, but I can guarantee you that if you commit to that type of work, then it's going to end up paying, way more, like you're going to get more in return than what you're just like actually paying. So that's definitely another piece of it for me.
Good. Do you have a favorite like self-help or business book that you'd recommend to people? And what's your like favorite part of that book?
Yeah, I think I would say there's 2 books that probably changed a lot of how I was thinking. Atomic
Mm.
Habits, which I know lots of people know and love that book. And I would say The Slight Edge. So Slight Edge is by Jeff Olson, Atomic Habits by James Clear. And I think those 2 books actually work pretty well together because like I feel like they go play off of each other. But again, it just goes back to the discipline of having the prioritization and like being really clear on what you're trying to accomplish, but then also knowing that incremental progress is still progress because I mean, I still struggle with this. It's so easy to fall into that dichotomy of like it's all or nothing. And really it's just making any kind of incremental progress is huge because it's the compound effect. The more you do something, it just continues to grow over time. And then a year later, you're like, oh, wow, I'm a completely different person because I committed to like these different mental or, activity, the changes that I made in my life. So, yeah, I think those 2 books and they're both easy to read and I think easy to apply.
And that's awesome. Yeah, those are great reads. And yeah, I think come back to the phrase of like done is better than perfect
Yeah,
a lot.
exactly.
Because I'm a perfectionist. And so that can often be my like barrier or obstacle, because I'm like, well, it's not perfect. It's not
Yeah.
excellent. I can't do it. I can't put this out there. I can't XYZ. But just like you said, the compound effect of just getting stuff done, getting it out there, and you continue to improve along the way, but you got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
And we can paralyze ourselves by overanalysis and ad nauseum.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I love that principle. I feel like you're a kindred spirit. Like I think we run our businesses very similarly, and
Yeah.
this has been a really rich conversation. So thank you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We're recovering perfectionists. How about that?
That's right. That's right.
That's awesome. Brittany, as we wrap up here, do you have any like final words of advice for our listeners?
Yeah, I think kind of circling back to, we talked about mindset and how important that is and like having that morning routine. I think if you were going to do anything and have any kind of little small thing that you would change in a routine, that would be my recommendation to try is like have some kind of positive start to the day with, maybe a little exercise, but trying to get your mind right with some positive affirmations and, journaling, things like that. Because I think that, coming from a place of like gratitude, it's really going to change the trajectory of your day, which turns into a good day, good weeks, good months, it kind of goes from there.
Mm, beautiful. I have recently started to work out in the mornings, and I've noticed there are a couple of mornings I'll like rest, and I'm like, oh, I still need to wake up and do
Yeah.
something because it really does change your whole brain chemistry. What's going
Yeah.
on
It's kind of
there?
crazy. Yeah.
So
It's
I love
the
that.
little things. They really do make a difference. So.
That's beautiful. And the gratitude and affirmations. Love it. Well, Brittany, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so, so much.
Well, thank you. I appreciate y'all having me on. It's been a fun conversation for sure.
So awesome. Thanks.
Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Momentum in Real Estate. We hope you found valuable insights and strategies to propel your real estate journey forward.
If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe to our podcast and leave us a review. Your feedback helps us continue to deliver content that resonates with you. Remember, success in real estate is about continuous learning, growth, and serving others. Keep that momentum going and watch your business thrive.
Until next time, keep pushing forward and bringing your real estate dreams to life.
This is Cory Wall
and Kristin James signing off from Momentum in Real Estate.